Paul said, I came to you preaching Christ and Him crucified, and that was the most important thing to Him, and should be to us, and it is. What's your first name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas. My name's Ken.
Ken.
Why did you choose this spot?
Rick.
Because
the church?
Yeah, it's
nearby.
Just understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are. Just understand this. It creates an association, and had we wanted to do that, we would have done that. Our emphasis and our goal is to preach the gospel. If you preach the gospel, they become saved. They know Christ, are saved by grace. Their minds toward this changes.
Not necessarily. Well, if they get saved,
there isn't a believer in here that doesn't understand this.
What are they doing?
What are they doing against this?
What urgency do they have? Do they have the same urgency for preborn children being murdered as they'd have for born people who are going to be murdered? If someone were to come out here and start shooting us, would they do something about that?
They do, Nicholas. But you're connecting what you're doing. You're saying this is the only way to reach people,
I didn't
not
say
the
that.
ways we reach
I didn't
people.
Say that.
Well, that's the inference that I glean from that is, if you're going to do something, then you have to do it my way.
No, I never said that.
You have to protest and put up a sign, and I understand that. I get your passion. I guess I'm asking why the connection here. If you were on that corner, I'd have no problem.
Well, like why do we come to a church, or?
Pardon me?
Why do we come to a church? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Because when you need help, you go to a good man's house to ask for help, and we're asking for help. We're not saying join us. We're saying take action, pray and take action, to work in the legislative battle, and also go out to the abortion mills, go out to the streets, and have the same urgency for the preborn as you'd have if you knew a school was going to be shot tomorrow morning. We wouldn't say, well, we're praying about that. No, you take action, I would think. So we need to do the same for the preborn, because we know when and where they're going to be murdered tomorrow morning. And the reality is most Christians will be nowhere to be found at the abortion mills, not only here in Milwaukee, but all over the culture, all over the country. I've been to abortion mills by myself, and with all Christian churches that are surrounding it, and I was out there by myself, because Christians, they have no compassion for the preborn. They get more upset that we show these images than that children are actually being murdered. They're just like the Christians in Nazi Germany who looked the other way while their neighbors were being murdered. We're not loving our preborn neighbor as ourselves. That's the problem. We're showing no compassion for them. And we think that what we are doing, praying and maybe giving to a pregnancy resource center, supporting the Republican candidates is going to do it, but it's not abolishing abortion. And we keep voting for evil pro-life Republicans who do nothing but regulate murder. And they know it's wrong. And so,
evil.
What's that?
They're evil.
Yeah,
and that's going to increase.
And we need to stop supporting them. We need to put people in office who will abolish this and not care about the cost. And so we're exhorting Christians. We don't do this like outside of bars. Like we don't ask them for help, because like that's not a good man's house. So we go to a church, a good man's house, to ask for help, to exhort good people, our brethren, to help us, to go to the streets, to go to the abortion mills, to demand other legislatures to abolish abortion now, not wait. And most Christians, they don't care. They say they do, but when I ask them what actions are you taking, there's not much. They're not doing much.
Dude, you can have every real believer stand on corners all day long, and unless you get to the heart of the matter, and that's man's dead condition. You were once dead in your trespasses and sins. You're not convincing minds, because they are evil.
Well, we do. We stand on street corners and proclaim the gospel and reach people with the gospel. We were doing that yesterday. And we proclaim the gospel. So we do both. We proclaim the gospel and we display these images because we want this Holocaust to end. And I've seen that too many times. Christians and pastors and religious leaders, they think that we just got to preach the gospel. The problem is,
Not the only thing.
well, I mean, but that, like, when we ask them to help with ending this Holocaust, too often they say, well, we just got to preach the gospel. The problem is, that's not going to help the children that they're going to be murdered tomorrow morning. Preaching the gospel is not going to help them from being murdered. It's not going to rescue them. We do both. We preach the gospel and we rescue them from death.
And I think reaching some young lady who might be considering that walking up to the abortion mill that morning, that might have some effect. You might, shake them.
But most Christians aren't doing that. Like you go out to the abortion mill tomorrow morning, there'll probably be less than 5 Christians out there. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe. Where are the Christians? Where are they?
Christ said there are varying gifts and varying works.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone is called to do that. Not everyone is even called to go out and share the gospel, because people just don't.
Every Christian is called to evangelize.
Called to teach a Bible study. Not everyone is called to preach the gospel of the grace of God. If that's your calling, that's phenomenal.
This is not a special calling. It's a command of God's word to love your neighbor as yourself.
And how many people do you say are doing that?
Far too few. Okay, well the problem is not that it's a special calling. The problem is Christians are living in disobedience to God's word. When it comes to their children, their neighbors being murdered, they're not taking it seriously. It's not that not many Christians are called to this. It's that Christians are ignoring justice and mercy. They know that children are being murdered down the road from their church, and they don't care. And I mean, they'll tell you they care, but where are they tomorrow morning in front of the abortion mills? Where are they in the streets proclaiming loudly, demanding justice for the preborn, and refusing to vote for pro-life Republicans who do nothing?
That's the problem. Keep going back to that. That's your right.
It's far too few. It's far too few. We need Christians demanding justice now for the preborn, not waiting on the Supreme Court to do their duty, because they're not going to.
It was the Supreme Court that allowed the abortion to exist.
Well, Christians allowed them to do evil.
And it will still exist even if it were illegal. It would still exist.
Yeah, just like any other evil. Bank robbery still exists. People still break into houses. But that doesn't mean that we should legalize it. And we need to decriminalize abortion so that babies will no longer be murdered in the masses. And we're not doing that. Morning.
Oh, okay. They don't do that anymore. I remember back in the day.
What's that?
We used to line all of Blue Mound and then Highway 100 going that way. So it was like a giant cross. This was my kids were little. They used to, just for like, yeah. They still do that? Isn't it usually around this time
Not
of
often
year?
enough.
Yeah,
they should do that. They should do that every week.
Right? Amen.
Every week.
Amen.
I don't know why Christians don't do that every week.
Right?
Because once a year is not going to end this Holocaust. But just ask yourselves, what more can we do to abolish abortion? Do we have the same urgency for our preborn neighbors as we'd have for born people being murdered? As we'd have if we knew when and where a mass killing spree was going to take place tomorrow? And actually you do, at the abortion mills. And throughout the week, children are being mass murdered at these death camps, and Christians aren't doing much about it. And so we're pleading with our brethren to.
You're advocating against sin, correct?
Well, we're exhorting our brethren to love their preborn neighbors as themselves. The second greatest commandment: love your neighbor as yourself. That includes your preborn neighbor, who's the most needy person in this culture. No one.
I think you'd reach more people. Again, I keep going back to it. It's the gospel of the grace of God. You didn't see Paul out there holding a sign saying, "Save the preborn."
Does that mean that we shouldn't?
Save men. Save them.
So
when men's minds are changed, this is going to be an abomination to them, just like it is to you and me.
Well, Christians have been saying that for 45
Same
years.
Same thing with the drunk. You don't march in front of a tavern saying, "Stop the drinking."
How do you know we don't?
Stop the killing.
How do you know? We were at a strip club the other day out in front, reaching people with the gospel.
That's what you need to do.
So we do both.
Preach the gospel.
We do. And we assume that people here are Christians, so we assume they already know the gospel. And Christians throughout history, they didn't just preach the gospel, they did that, and they rescued those from being led away to the slaughter, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Ten Boom family. They didn't just preach the gospel, they rescued Jews from the Nazis.
Sure.
And we should do the same for the preborn.
And so would I.
What?
And so would you, and so would I.
Well, are you doing that though?
Yep.
But how?
Every day.
How?